everybody. This is Carolina.
And this is Terica.
We're one half of Not Your Average Fangirls, and today we are going to be reacting to BTS's Map of the Persona,
Ooh,
Map of the Soul.
Map of the Soul. Wow.
There we go. Listen, things happen, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're going to be reacting to it and talking about psychology because why not?
Because we're smart sometimes.
We're smarticle.
Smarticles. See, I have my glasses on and everything.
Me, but it's because I'm blind.
Right, you're right. Same, honestly. I have to pay to see, you know.
Okay, well, let's jump right into it because, yes, I'm excited. Oh my god.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I love this.
Take me back. Take me back. This chalkboard, though. Oh my god.
I know.
Oh, yo. About.
Hey. Oh my god, it's like they're going back.
Oh, he's so cute.
Oh my god, a dog or a pig? What?
Ew.
I know, right? That booger.
Cute. I love him with this white hair, whatever you want to call it.
Oh shit, indeed, bro, what?
Okay, with the outfit change.
Ooh.
I love the animation in this. I'm trying to pay attention to all the writing on the wall.
I'm trying to read the lyrics, like, but he rapping too fast. Yo, I love this. The butt thing. Oh my god.
Yeah, saw that on Twitter.
Same. Hey. Am I alive? I don't know. Is this all a simulation? Probably.
It is.
Oh man, look at his fine ass with all like. Oh, bro, what?
I don't know if I should be like amazed or kind of scared.
Yes.
His eyes are so pretty.
Yo, that school uniform is too big. Yo, this part though. Oh my god, what?
It's like the, have you seen I Am Robot or whatever? With Will
Yes,
Smith?
that's what
Oh, I Robot.
that's so creepy, but so cool at the same time.
Oh, I don't like it. Oh, no. This part's cool. I wonder what it says on the little robot.
Hey, who the hell am I? Yes. What the hell?
Yep. Yep.
What?
Yep.
What? Not June.
Just,
Not June.
of course, I expected nothing less. And I figured it would be him doing the next
Oh my
intro.
God.
Because they're cycling around now since everyone's already done an intro.
Okay, that music video was incredible, amazing. BTS obviously coming out here to slay everybody's lives
I'm
as
stressed.
per usual.
Stressed. Because it's like, where do we go from here? What else are we going to get? Like, I can't.
But now, yeah, like, at first it was just, like, loving yourself and, like, learning to love yourself and, like, all that, like, in debt. And then now it's, like, all philosophical. Like, oh, well, who am I?
Who are any of us? What is the world? What is life?
Like, what is going on? Yeah, basically. But I'm going to let Terica take over here real quick because BTS is bringing a concept of, like, persona, shadow. What were the rest? I forgot.
Persona, shadow, like yourself and like ego. So when the video first dropped, like half of us watched it, the other half didn't, and the other half was just like, I can't wait. Like it was madness. But from just Twitter and then half of our group watching the video, we saw images and stuff on the chalkboards, and like we saw things that said persona, of course, was just the name of it, and like ego, self, shadow, things like that. And then we see a quote about dreams from Carl Jung, and like I flipped out, and Carolina was excited because we are like the psychology nerds in the group. And I was just like, oh my God, this was my entire senior class for the most part. So after that, I, went back to school, even though I said I wasn't going to go back to school.
I know, right? You busted out the notebooks, like, boom, what did we learn from that?
What? Yeah, so this is really cool that, like, our worlds are, like, colliding once again and meshing with K-pop. So, like, the whole thing about dreams is Carl Jung is, like, the father of, like, dream interpretation. Yes. So, like, most of the like work and the theories and the research that you see about dreams and how to interpret them and the messages behind them, like it comes from Carl Jung's like work, which I thought was fitting for BTS because their whole thing is like dream based, like No More Dream, and then they're always talking about reaching their goals and their dreams and stuff like that. So I was just like, that works. Like what better way than connect your music with like the king of dreams.
Which, bringing it back, let's go back to the music video. Like, it starts off with an old intro. So then even going back to the video, like, it starts off with one of, like, their older topics. It's not No More Dream, but still.
Yeah, but still, I feel like that was really clever to do because the whole thing with, like, Carl Jung and dreams, if you see me looking to the side, it's because I have my notes. I came prepared. To Jung, like, your dreams are what, like, marries or, like, brings together, like, your conscious and your unconscious self. So, like, your, like, two parts of you to make your whole sort of thing. So, like, I feel like what they're saying is, like, their dreams, like, now, and then, like, maybe their unconscious self was when they were, like, first starting out. And so now they're kind of marrying that to, like, become whole type situation. And, like, the whole question that June or RM says in the lyrics is like, who am I? Like, who the hell am I? Or like, who am I? The question I had my whole life. Once again, Carl Jung, like, his whole thing is like, our entire purpose, our being, or our life journey is to like find yourself. And yourself is like you at your fullest potential, knowing exactly who you are. So like, that's what our life journey is about. Just who, like, questioning and finding out who you are. And through that, you go through several steps. And one of the steps calls for, like, your persona. Haha, name of the song. And your persona is your mask. And so I thought that was really cool, too, because he's asking, like, who am I? And then he goes in to be like, I'm a dog or a pig, what else? But then other people come out and put a pearl necklace on me. So he's basically saying, like, I don't know who I am, but other people are telling me who I am. And that's kind of what your persona is. It's like the you that other people perceive you as.
Yeah, so it's like how other people would describe you. Like,
exactly.
For example, I could say that my sister is introverted and shy, but in her mind, she's not. Like, that's not how she sees herself.
Exactly. And like what Carolina said, introverted, which is another thing that we get from Carl Jung. Like, he's the reason why you know what an extrovert and an introvert is. Also, the personality test that they took when they're like an IMFT something, that also comes from Carl Jung's work. Yeah, which is really cool that they took those like a while ago, and then even now it ties into this comeback, which is crazy to me.
I think BTS has been planned their whole life. Like, I'm pretty sure they have like their 15th album already planned out. They already tie it all out together.
Wouldn't doubt it. So like, your persona is like your mask. So what they show the world, or what you show the world, your mask, what you hide behind. I also connected that to like the stereotypes, or like not really the stereotypes, but like the molds that companies put artists in. Yeah. So it's like, oh, you're the sensitive one, or you're the smart one, or you're the, and it made me think about like them at the beginning when they first debut. Like, y'all are like the hip hop crew, like you're this, you're that, right? And even at one point he said something like, maybe I'm a little evil and stuff like that. Like, it's just like you're put into like this box, and like I instantly thought about like when interviewers asked him like, oh, how are you really when you're around each other? Or like that interview when they were talking to Jin and he's just like jumping around and being Jin.
Yeah.
And Tay was just like, he's so weird. And like Jin goes back to that and he was just like, well, the company wanted to market me as like the brooding bad boy, the good looking one, but I'm really not. Like I'm just super goofy and fun. And so like people saw him one way, but as he was shedding that persona or shedding that mask, he was like stepping into his true self. And so like that's not who he was. So I thought like the whole thing behind persona, it's not even just, can be tied to not just like us, like in everyday life, because it's like how you cope with people, but also how they cope with being celebrities. So it's like they have to put on these masks and show like what the people want to see, or hide behind these masks because like of their job title. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's like with any group, too, like, you know, you have your rapper and your vocal and your visual, and that goes all into BTS as well, because at the beginning, it was just like, well, Jimin's the one with the abs, and this one is this one, like, and then Jin has to be the brooding, handsome dude. So, I think that now that, obviously, they have more freedom in their music, and they're more in control about everything, and they have been, you know, obviously slowly getting into that. I think that, like Terica said, like now they're losing that persona, they're losing that fakeness, and they're getting into what they, like, who they really are.
Right. So like your base of your persona can be like not necessarily a bad thing. Like it's kind of like how you describe yourself from the outside. Like you could be like, I'm a fan, I'm an artist, I'm a doctor or a sister, which is fine. But the issue takes place whenever it becomes like excessive and over the top, and then that's when you kind of lose yourself, because you start putting all these masks on, and then you kind of forget like who you are really. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what they were trying to go for. Like they haven't really forgotten who they are, but they've kind of just like buried it deep within themselves because.
And I feel like
they're celebrities.
Yeah, exactly, because they're celebrities. So I think that at some point they're just like, well, I can't really express myself the right way I want to, so I'd rather just stay quiet because I don't want to get criticized. Which every celebrity does. That's why we don't know, you know, some celebrity could be like, I don't know, goofy nerd, but then described as like the sexy, like, asshole one, but he's not.
Exactly. And I think it's not until celebrities kind of like get huge into their career where they start shedding these things. Yeah. Like, for example, like Beyonce. Like, pretty much Beyonce can be herself and do what she want to do, and there will be people that give her crap for it. But she has such a prominent career that at this point she has like a fan base that they want to see the real side of her, and they'll support that no matter what mistake or what personality type comes out.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of finding their way to that, where they're in that in-between stage where they're super big to the point where they want their fans, or they want people to be like, no, this is the real me, which hence why June changed his name, RM, Real Me. But then they're also stuck in that world, okay, well, we are super big, but now we're also moving to another market, and now we still have to be that like prim and proper like idol. And I think that like a good way to put it, what I saw in my notes, was that your persona is like the PR version of you. Like, yeah, right? I thought that was really cool.
It's like your social media like version of you, like your Instagram. Like, you know how people only put like the good, like, this is all the good stuff happening in my life. That's what you put out, because I don't see anybody on Instagram like, oh, look how ugly I look today or whatever, you know. Like, it's always like your best version of yourself.
So the next process in like finding who you are or finding yourself is your shadow, which is really cool, because shadow is also one of the images written on the chalkboard in the back.
He even says it in the lyrics too. He says, my shadow, I wrote and called it hesitation.
Exactly, which is really cool too, because I think that's going to be the next, you know how they do trilogies? Yes. We're going to get like self, shadow, ego, whatever, boom. The fact that he said that is because your shadow is basically like all of your repressed features or like attributes or things about you, and not necessarily all evil, but they're mainly seen as bad because it's like the things you don't want to show, so you repress them. And he said that like I called it, what was it, the hesitation shadow. Yeah, so like that was the repressed like thing about him, his hesitation or whatever. So his persona wanted to like hide that about him. But once he said, I named it hesitation, now it's no longer a shadow, because a shadow is something that like, it's, well, technically it still is, because it's like the part you didn't want to show, but like The shadow is like things that you try to repress, but you don't know you're repressing it until it manifests.
In your subconscious.
Exactly. So when he said, I named it hesitation, now he's acknowledging his shadow. It's no longer that thing that's like inside him. Yeah. So like that's when you know what your shadows are. Like this was so fun for me. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, I was just like, oh my god, maybe I will do something useful with my degree. Still talk about BTS.
I mean, it works. The psychology behind BTS.
But like, also your shadow is what Carolina was talking about, as she knows, is the id. So yes. So it's just different.
Yeah. So how I learned this, because I focus more on like social psychology, consumer psychology, abnormal, and we didn't really talk about this like subconscious thing unless it had to do with me selling you something. So in the id, it basically is the little kid in you. So the little person behind that says, eat that candy bar, eat 50 of them, and you're like, okay. So those are like your urges to do things that are just good and taste good, or are just like bring you happiness and bring you fulfillment. That's what the id does. Like, that's what the id is. And it's in your subconscious, and you can bring it to your conscious, but then your ego will stop it. Like, because then that's the part that decides, like, okay, well, is that smart to do or no, or should we do that but in moderation? So that's why when Terika was talking about the shadow and all this stuff, I'm just like, who the heck is shadow? Like,
it's because Freud and Carl Jung, they're so closely related because Carl Jung studied under Freud. So he took a lot of like Freudian thought and made it his own. So like whenever you talk about things like that, the id is basically Jung's like his shadow, which is cool too, because like Carolina was saying, it's like the little kid in you, the immature part, and you know, June being the genius that he is, he talks about immaturity.
Oh my god!
So and one part of the lyrics is like, you know what comes out of you when you're drunk, like immaturity.
Yes.
Once again,
wow.
He's talking about his id, his shadow.
I didn't put those two together.
Exactly. Like, I really like this because it's basically he's taking like Carl Jung's like research and his thought and mixing it with like his everyday life. So for example, what blew up on Twitter is the but Namjoon phrase that he used, because like the but Namjoon part, like the but this, is kind of like it was another one of his personas or whatever that he's shedding off, you know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Also, another reference to the shadow is the world is actually not interested in my clumsiness at all. And that's like, the world's not interested in the parts of me
that are like
that are repressed, or the parts of me that aren't me. You know what I mean? They just want to see that persona, that like outer shell. And so finally, like the last step to like fulfilling your like dream or your life's goal of like self-actualization or realizing who you are, talks about archetypes. And archetypes, again, are just, like, behaviors that lie dormant. And I connected this, too, like, in general with K-pop idols, is a lot of people see them at face value, and they're just like, oh, he's too feminine, or oh, they wear makeup, or oh, that's so weird, and stuff like that. But, like, one of your archetypes is, like, there's a dormant, like, feminine part of males, and there's a dormant masculine part of females. Yes. And, like, we tend to try to, like, repress these archetypes. Exactly. And one thing that I thought would really interest you, Carolina, is that Carl Jung talks about psychic abilities a lot. And not, like, being psychic, like, oh, I can predict the future. But, like, a lot of our attributes and the way our personality types and things like that come from this psychic energy that we have from, like, our ancestors or from, like, evolution.
That he believes that we inherit like our past ancestors like behavior. So for example, I don't know if this might be an example, but like, oh, like don't touch fire, it's like a thing that is like engraved in us. That's what he believed, like, so everybody will be born and know not to touch fire. Is it something like that?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And it's universal and it's worldwide, so it transcends cultures, which BTS and like other groups talk about all the time. Trends and like, you know,
like music is universal. It doesn't need to be like, it doesn't matter what language it's in. It'll still be, you can still feel, because again, in the podcast we've talked about different songs that we didn't know what they were saying, but we felt like a certain emotion, and then when we would read the lyrics, we would realize, oh my God, they're talking about that emotion.
Exactly.
That's so wild.
And so I also connected that with them going back to the past and recycling through the intros again, because now that they're on this journey of finding who they are and their real selves, they're starting to like awaken all these like dormant things from their ancestors or from their past. And so it's like now they're going back to the very beginning to try to figure out who they are now and who they're going to be. So now we're getting things from like School of Affair and like who knows what else we'll get. Maybe we'll get some things from like Dark and Wild.
Yes, if
like,
they're gonna bring Dark and Wild Part 2, let's go! Let's go! Wow.
So they're going back to where it all began when they first put on those masks and became those idols and were stuck in those roles. And now they're trying to break out of that. So to break out of that, you have to awaken and realize those pasts.
Who you are.
So I thought that was really cool. Like them going back to the past to discover who they are, going back to the past where they first put on that persona and was like BTS. They were no longer
Sonia. No, I'm just kidding. They're
they were no longer like their regular selves. Like now they're Bangtan Sonyeon. Like they're these boys like who are thrust into these roles now of being idols. And though it's still kind of happening with their new like fame and like the Western side of things, but now they're kind of like more experienced to be like, okay, well, we have our solid fan base. And yes, it would be nice to have another solid fan base, like with people who don't really listen to K-pop. But like now that we have this core group of people who know who we are and love who we are, we can finally start shedding all of these personas and kind of get to the real.
And even now in a recent interview, even Namjoon was saying how they don't want to start singing in English. They don't want to start doing something different because then that won't be BTS. It goes against everything that they're trying to do right here, like share who they truly are.
Right.
But this archetype thing, though, is it like, is that like in your subconscious, like you don't know?
So I think what I remember and from what I was reading and that, so it's like tendencies that shape our behavior, but they're unrecognized. Okay. So they're in our subconscious. Yeah.
It's like little things that you do, but you don't even realize, like, or you don't know why you do them.
Exactly, because you don't realize them until a situation calls them to come out.
Yeah.
Or like they have to manifest in some way.
Wow.
And that's what these archetypes are. So you have, like I told you, like the animus and anima, I think, and that's the masculine and feminine parts or whatever. And then you have like the wisdom, the old wise man, I think, archetype or something.
Which is like the feminine and masculine, because you obviously see guys that like if they're just like, oh well, you know, why, like makeup and things like that's feminine. They try to like not like it, even though they do. They like suppress that. And same with women, like if they're tomboy or something, people would be like, oh, like, why are you dressing like a boy? And, like, you feel shame about it at times. And so, okay, I see.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just thought it was really cool because, like, with the whole them going to Boy Meets Evil, I kind of, like, when I was reading about the shadow, I was like, oh, heck! Like, you know, kind of finding, like, and manifesting the parts of you that you've been trying to hide, like, your quote-unquote evil or dark, your shadow. And then they moved into like love yourself, and it's like, okay, now that these have manifested and you know about them, it's time to embrace them and love them because they're all parts of you. And now that you're embracing the parts that are you, it's time to find out exactly who that you is.
See, I'm telling you, man, I'm like talking about this because this is genius. Like, that's exactly what it is. It's so genius. And I'm telling you, I feel like they have the next 15 years planned out. They're like, listen, we're going to do this album, and the songs cannot be written, but they're going to write them, and they're going to make sense altogether. How? I don't know, but they're doing it.
Your creative masterpieces for 15 years. I don't know. Once again, these are just our thoughts, and like we're just taking research and things that we remember from school and like molding them and fitting them to how we're interpreting, you know? And once again, like that's another thing, like music, you interpret it the way you want to. You know, everybody feels differently. So these are just kind of theories and things that we've been kind of putting together and things that we've connected. But basically, to me, the whole song is just basically Tim talking about like finding out who he is and recognizing those
the quote unquote bad things about you, and like putting them up front so you can either work on them or just realize that they're there.
Exactly, because the shadow, for the most part, it's not always evil. It's just, or not always dark, or the bad parts or negative parts of it. Sometimes it's like the creative side of us too. And so like I think his whole back and forth, he's just trying to figure out like, is this me being me, or is this me being the person that someone else is labeling me as?
Because you have like projection. So for example, if somebody keeps saying that you're, I don't know, if somebody keeps telling you like, oh, you're funny, there's gonna be a point that you're gonna believe it yourself. And that's like somebody else projecting that onto you. And it could not be true. You could be horrible. Like, you could not be funny at all. You believe it because other people are telling you.
Exactly. So, like, when you go into, like, the psychology of self, it's just, like, one big, like, because it's, like, how you see yourself, how others see you, how you see yourself as others see you. It's just, like, a mirror, like, an image. Like, it's really cool, though, to think about all these different aspects of yourself.
And BTS is out here, like, exploring them all.
So I'm excited because I feel like with the next, like, the trilogy or whatever, we'll get to go deeper into obviously like shadow and ego, like the things that were written on the chalkboard.
Ooh, man. So yeah, but these were just, again, just our thoughts about all this stuff and what we thought was interesting. If you guys have any theories about this whole thing, if you want to put it together with whatever you know about psychology, like, go for it. If this is more like philosophical to you, then let us know below. Like, we want to know it all. Like, I'm a big theory fan. I do not come up with them, but I will read them all and be like, oh, you're right, that could be it. And then person B would be like, no, but then this. And I'm like, person B, you're right, that could be it too. And then it's just, and I truly enjoy all the theories that the BTS world gives me.
Same. Oh, I just get so excited. Like, this is right up my alley. I was just like, yes! Like, I love personality and, like, psychology of the self and things like that, and kind of, like, taking, and like I said, the persona isn't necessarily a bad thing either. Just like your shadow isn't all evil, your persona isn't. So, like, saying that you have all these masks doesn't necessarily mean you're fake. It's just kind of like a coping mechanism to deal with the outside world. Like, you have to be different people at different situations.
Knowing how to act depending on, like, where your situation that you're at as well.
Yeah, and we're all multifaceted too. You're not just one thing or one personality trait. Like, you have different things. So, like, you could be a fan and a mother and a sister, or you could be a fan and a brother or a dad. You know what I mean? So, like,
and each role you do something different.
Exactly, and I think,
but that doesn't mean that you're less of something just because you're something else.
Exactly, and I think Namjoon also pointed like that out too. He said then God wouldn't have created all those various beauties, and I think he's saying like there's various parts of you. Like, there's a reason why you have all these personas and all these masks, and the only time that like it gets destructive is when you lose your sense of self. When you have so many masks that you just kind of get them all jumbled up and you forget who you are at your core. But but like you said, like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone has multiple things and they're multiple personality types, and you're not just one thing. Be who you are, basically. It's the moral of the story.
And don't be ashamed.
Don't be ashamed.
That was great. Well, everybody, those were our thoughts. Our mini reaction to the music video and our thoughts about the whole psychology part about it. We do have a podcast called Not Your Average Fangirls, just like the channel says. We post every Tuesday, or try to at least. It might be Wednesdays. Nobody knows, but it's mostly every Tuesday. We post every Tuesday. You can find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, as well as on this channel if you're into just listening on YouTube. And basically, we keep you up on the K-pop world every week. Let you know big news, comebacks, and our thoughts about them. And try to give you the all-around 411 on everything that's happening in the K-pop world.
Right.
But, yeah, everybody, check us out. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, whatever theories you have. And always remember to fangirl on.
Bye!